I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 9, and today we jump into the Steam age of Gregtech. Hopefully you guys are ready. So last episode in All the Mods 9, I ended up setting up a way to sort of link our refined storage to a new applied energistic system that we are going to use to craft things with Gregtech. I know, it sounds crazy, but believe me, this is going to work out really, really well. And today we're going to be crafting our first Gregtech machines. But first, let me kind of show you what I've done to the base thus far to prep for this. So after reading all of you guys' responses, I'm sticking with Gregstation. You guys all seem to kind of like that. So let me go ahead and show you more of the station as I've continued to complete this. Now I'm using illuminated panels on the roof. I'm using clear glass for the top, so that way we keep some residual light. And then I'm using tinted glass everywhere else, including on the bottom here. And so I have extended this quite a bit. And I've also got all of my airlock doors in, and this is kind of cool. Something cool to note is every time I show up to this location, these doors open up. And I also went ahead and used a matter receiver. This is from RF Tools, and I'm now using an advanced charge porter. Basically, you make the advanced charge porter, shift right click on this, and then this now has a ability for me to see the destinations, and I can set up to a few of them. And we just click like set, and then we can travel, for example, back to our main base. That's all pretty cool. At least I think it's pretty cool. The only thing that's not cool is how absolutely enormous this item is when I'm holding it in my hand. Look how big this thing is. Okay, let me now show you us going back to Gregstation. This is pretty darn cool. So when I teleport back, it makes a cool noise, but the doors just open up. That is so fancy. So let me talk more about the base building that I have done. Now I don't have a good way of getting back out as all of this is now fully enclosed. I hung out on the Discord, and I hung out and live streamed this over on the Discord, by the way. So those of you who are watching who were there, thank you for being there and chilling out and hanging out and talking. That does make this process go by a lot faster. But if you haven't checked out the Discord, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect, and join the amazing community over there. It's absolutely a blast hanging out with you guys. So anyways, back to this. Yes, I spent the time building this all out, and I just absolutely love walking through this. And the doors being open, I really like, but these are all airlock doors, kind of fitting the whole theme. And this takes you straight out to space. So let's look at this. Yes, I built out more modules, as you see right here, out here. And I have placed in my tall versions of my rooms, and they are connected to this innermost part. And you might notice something over here. I have some orange laid out. These are going to be two modules that I end up using for our first sort of stage of Gregtech. And I want to color code things. So I think what I'm going to do to color code them is exactly what you see here. I'm going to put different color concrete as the main sort of line down the middle, and this just looks really, really nice. And as you can see, I have my rooms here for all of our Gregtech stuff we're going to be putting in. And I also just like having an airlock here because, like, for example, if I just want to send Snaxolotl out the airlock, boop, goodbye Snaxolotl, and close the airlock, and now Snaxolotl is just gone. No, I got to pick it back up. I can't come back. Snaxolotl is my friend. Having this in my inventory just makes me miss the whole inventory pets mod. I just like having it just a pet to always be there. It's a lot less lonely. Now, I know a lot of you have been thinking, Chosen, you've just been postponing the Gregification. That's of course what I've been seeing in the comments. And I do appreciate all of the comments. Today, we are not going to postpone anything. We are going to get started with the Steam age of Gregtech. And keep in mind, I am very new to this. So if I make any kind of mistakes, or there are better ways that I can actually accomplish these things in the future, let me know in the comments, because that's how I learn, and I love learning from you guys. Just don't be super hateful about it. I typically don't do well with that. Now I've gone through and I have sort of read most of the things that are in here. We've already made all of the base tools, and we've made everything except for the plunger here. However, we don't have the stuff to make plungers, but we should be able to make it today, even though it says it is not yet implemented. So that's something to note. Now, all of these different uses for the tools, I think, are kind of important here. For example, the mallets say they will pause and resume machines from working when you right click them. I feel like that's an incredibly important thing to note. I did play around with some of these machines and tested them out a little bit, but let's dive into the Steam era. We've already technically made bronze plates. And I'm going to show you right from the start, if you missed last episode, how we can actually craft these on demand. So inside of my terminal, I have set up crafting recipes to craft all of my different tools. For example, all the iron variations of our different components. With Applied Energistics, we are able to craft plates. And by the way, if you have some in stock with Applied Energistics and you want to be able to craft, unlike refined storage where you hold down Control and Shift, with Applied Energistics, you middle mouse button to request a new set. So middle mouse, you push it in, and then that should allow you to request more items if you already have them in stock. So let me show you how this is going to work. So if I request more than the 128 durability that our hammer has of plates, we will see that it is going to actually request more hammers. So there's a hammer here with 13 durability, there's one with 15, and then there's one with 85. It realizes that after it runs out of durability on these, it then needs to craft a new hammer. And this is super important because this is something that refined storage just cannot handle, but Applied Energistics can, which is going to make crafting so much easier. And I've also gone in here and I have applied acceleration cards. Something to note about if you're messing around with upgrades and things like that, keep a network tool in your inventory. The network tool, when you open it up, you can put your upgrade cards in here. And that allows you to open up something like this and just simply shift right click to insert the cards in. Makes it a lot faster to upgrading machines. And for example, for speeding up crafting, that is one of the fastest ways to do it. Now to continue on to make this auto crafting process more understandable, we ended up setting up last episode a way to link our refined storage to this network. And so what I'm using is a storage controller, and I have an exporter from my refined storage that is exporting the items into these storage drawers. And then these storage drawers are then using a storage bus to then link to the Applied Energistics system, giving it items to work with. So if we need any items in the future to be able to make certain things from Gregtech, I should just be able to add them to this list, and I can auto craft right here. And we should be able to request and all kinds of other stuff with importers and exporters from Applied Energistics. So now with all of that said, let's actually do the thing that we were setting out to do in the first place, and that is craft steam machines. So let's put the plates, the bronze plates, in our inventory, and that should complete our quest, and we're going to get a couple more in return. Now, it does note that steam machines need to vent steam, and it also notes in here that steam, you do not want to burn any or generate steam in these boilers without putting water in here first. Because if we have it heated and then we put water in without the water being in first, then the machine will blow up, and we don't want it to do that. I would hate to do that. That'd probably be the worst kind of explosion because it would be very wet and hot. That sounds awful. So instead, what we're going to make sure is we are providing this with water, constant water. And we should be able to do that with just a sink. Now, here's where things get interesting. So it does talk about these different pressure sort of boilers here. So right here, we have a low pressure steam boiler, and it says 6 LT. I'm assuming that's liters per tick. And then we also have a high pressure steam boiler, and then we have low, and then we have high. My understanding is that the high pressure steam boiler is going to require like more fuel and water to produce more steam, but they're going to be faster. Whereas the low ones, they are going to be slower, but don't require as much steam per operation. And then as far as these different variants in like their liter capacity, I'm assuming that's also going to be just how much more of the steam it can hold and produce. So yeah, after some education on my end, yes, exactly what I was thinking. This is how this works. So this is going to produce more. It does say produces right here. I guess I could have read that. But yeah, these are going to be faster, the high pressure versions, and then these are going to be slower, the low pressure versions. Now the high pressure is probably what I want to make, but there's a couple more steps to making this than the other version requires. So, and then also the quest is sort of built around us honestly going off of the low pressure. I don't think that we can mix and match actually for the quest line. So it might be better to just follow the quest line, you know what, and make the low pressure stuff and get started with that. Because technically it would be a little confusing if you didn't actually know how wrought iron was produced. By the way, if you want to know to make wrought iron, it would be kind of confusing because you don't know you have to go to the nugget route, but you actually produce wrought iron nuggets from iron nuggets being smelted in this pack. So that's how you get those. We'll get into that. I hope you're still following. So I have gone ahead and I've applied or bookmarked all of our machines that the quest actually wants us to make. And so I do need to start making the recipes for all of these items. So if I hover over this, you can see in blue the things that we already have crafts for. Technically, we also have a craft for the hammer. It's just not showing up here. But if I put this in, we will see the hammer does fill in, and it's the iron hammer, the things that we have in our inventory. So I can now make a bronze brick casing, and this is going to be very helpful. Like, this is just so nice that we can auto craft this. It's going to make life so much easier, because I couldn't imagine trying to do all of this by hand in a vanilla crafting table. Oh my goodness, that would get old. Because just look at the crazy recipes. For example, this low pressure here. This isn't even getting crazy yet. These are like very, very simple. But this is our low pressure steam boiler that is going to be the 12 liters a tick, aka millibuckets a tick, I assume, which is going to be convertible. And take a look at this one. This is the rock crusher. This requires some diamonds and also requires us to make these small bronze fluid pipes, which we're also going to want to get ready to go and crafted up. We're also going to need the casings here, requires the hammer. So a lot of different recipes, like a lot of different things to get put in. Thankfully, I have all of the items. I did take a look at all of these, and I went ahead and pulled in most of the ingredients that we're going to need to craft most of these items. And just like this, now I have the furnace. And so I just take it one step at a time, and I should be able to get all these recipes made. All right, I know I'm postponing just a little bit more, the steam generators and everything and getting into that. But I think to make things a little bit easier on myself, I went ahead and set up the wireless access terminal. I want to be able to actually, just while I'm over there, if I need something, I just want to be able to craft it while over here. So the best way to do that is by just having a terminal. Thankfully, in Applied Logistics, there's also a pattern terminal and everything that could allow us to build up patterns, but I'm going to want to come here most likely if I'm going to be adding any more recipes. So let me show you this. This is kind of cool. So to be able to actually utilize the wireless terminals now in Applied Logistics in the newer versions, we actually need a wireless access point, which you normally needed before. But now you no longer need the security terminal because we can put this right in here instead of the old security terminal. I don't even think there's a security terminal anymore. There might be a security method thing still, but this has now taken that place. And then we also have our range boosters here. There's a whole lot of other stuff that you can do as far as with your crafters. You can set hotkeys to these. I'm just going to keep this one in my inventory because I have my refined storage grid set up to a hotkey. So what can we do to get range extended on here? Well, it's not actually called range. It's called a booster. Well, a range booster actually, or wireless booster. You would normally fill this in and you would build these, but we do have access to an add-on mod that gives us infinite range and also infinite cross-dimensional range. So I should be able to request a dimensional card. So card right here, and I should be able to craft one of these dimensional cards, and this should give me cross-dimensional access to this grid from anywhere. So no matter where I'm at, I can request them. So it definitely in my own dimension here, I will be able to achieve that. So that's gonna be pretty cool. And there we have it. We now have ourselves a dimensional card, and that can go right in here. And now we have an infinite range. And I cannot believe the energy usage apparently is only 9 AE. That just seems absurd and does not seem right. That should be way more. The refined storage ones cost like 8,000 RF to run. So now I have access to this everywhere throughout the base. Oh, how nice this is going to be. So let's head over to this area. And also down here, by the way, I have also ran some Applied Logistics cables. So I also have access to our Applied Logistics stuff all down here ready to go. And this is where I want to start our steam generation. So I've now crafted up myself a low pressure steam boiler. So I want to go ahead and get this set up. Now this is going to be one of my first interactions with this thing. But apparently it has a couple of slots here. We have a temperature slot. We also have this one, which I'm assuming is going to be some sort of water, and then possibly steam here, and then whatever this bar is. But I have no idea just yet what this is all about until I start to put water in. Now, before we put coal in, we want to put water in here because apparently that will cause it to blow up if we don't do that. So I will take the coal, but I do have a sink here, and I'm thinking about placing the sinks and filling this with water, possibly from the back side here in some capacity. So I can go ahead and put my sink here, and then I'm going to use universal pipes for right now. And this should be able to just send water into this. So yeah, I'm just going to use a universal because they're pretty, in my opinion. And there we go. So now we have water going in here. And so now we should be able to also give it some sort of fuel. But I'm noticing this low pressure steam boiler doesn't actually have a slot for coal. Interesting. So I think I'm getting it now. This one is a liquid boiler. That was the difference that I wasn't reading in the name. So these are solid boilers and this is a liquid boiler. And I'm assuming that that means this will take like lava, maybe? It doesn't really appear. So I'm probably going to have to scrap this one and go back to using just the plain Jane regular solid boiler. At least for now, that is. So with that resolved and out of the way, now I do know that there is a difference. So this actually has a solid slot. This is what I was expecting to have in this machine. So I should, now that it has water in here, I should be able to put the coal in. And that should start producing steam very slowly. But it still should be producing it. Okay, that's interesting. And I could feed this through the bottom. I think the tops have a lot of uses. So if I open up my grid here, I think one of the best tools for me to have in my hand is going to be the wrench. So if I just have the wrench in my hand, I can like rotate the machine and I can rotate different sides. And this is kind of cool because, like, for example, if I have a port that is on this side, I can actually move that port to the top. It's kind of cool just by clicking these sides and changing that orientation that you see here. Like, this would allow me to flip it to the other side and all kinds of weird interactions. There's all kinds of cool things that I have kind of played around with when testing in the steam, at least. So same goes for moving the steam around. So this has not produced steam yet because the temperature is still building up, but it will eventually start to hit that that temperature goal and will start producing steam. And that's where using these pipes to send the steam around is going to be helpful. Now the quest shows a couple of optional things like making the low pressure steam forge hammer, also making a steam furnace, and making ourselves a steam rock crusher. All of these things really we don't need right now. We really just need to focus on how we're going to get to this final thing, which is going to be the electronic circuit. So this is going to require several different things: making wood pulp, making raw rubber pulp, producing rubber itself, then producing the sheets. And so there's a couple of things in here that we're going to have to kind of mix and match. Also making glass. So I think we need to kind of break this down into parts and just make the machines as we need them. And I think another good idea is make a machine per part required. I think just overall that would be a better idea than thinking that I'm going to be using one machine for multiple different processes. So now I'm going to move into my first machine. This is a low pressure steam macerator, and I now have a little bit of steam. So let's go ahead and just pipe this in over here. Now I do know some things from reading the quest. This grid port back here when working with the steam is kind of important. And I did find that you can actually rotate this with the wrench. So if I am going to pipe steam from the top, or anything like that, then I probably should move this like to a side, and I think it's fine where it's at. But if you did want to pipe, for example, to the back, you can move this just like that, and now it's on the top. And this is what I was meaning, how the face still stays the same, but like the area that this is rotated on changes. That is just kind of cool, and I think that's a pretty neat little thing that this little face is changing. Now I'm actually going to be feeding in materials, I think, from the left and pulling out from the right side, and I want to feed the steam into the top. And so to be able to do that, the leaving the back is just fine. After every process, apparently these steam generators or steam machines need to vent some steam, some excess steam. So you have to have that uncovered to do that. Let's go ahead and get some steam moved over here. So this is kind of interesting. If you hold down shift, it's going to send it to the actual pipe. But I noticed if I go ahead and I just place, for example, a pipe right on top of here, it doesn't always just connect. So you actually have to use the sort of connection grid that you see right here to sort of snap things into place. And just like this, notice it's not connected right here. You should be able to use the wrench, I think, to then link that together like that. And if you want to disconnect, you can just click on two of these sides and that will disconnect, or you can relink. Pretty cool. You can even make it connect without even having a connection here. But there we go. We now have steam, and now this machine should be steaming up. And what I want to do in here is I want to put some logs, for example, spruce logs in here to kind of show that it's going to start working. And so now this is using steam to crush this log into what is going to be pulp, which is our first thing we need to do. And then we need to take this pulp and send it into a steam compressor to produce the actual wood planks that we're going to need later on through this progression line. So this is kind of where I want to set up some applied energistics, and I should be able to make more of these boilers as we go along. But what I should be able to do here is I should have a cable that runs up through this, and we can feed items, for example, the logs, into here, and then we should be able to export the items back out of here. So I will use an exporter. Let's also get some coal down here, sending to the bottom of this. I think that we can export coal into the bottom here. And if we think about our channels, this is carrying 32 channels. So each time I add one of these off the side, this has the ability to hold 8 individual channels off of this. And so what we should have is the one channel being used right here. And I can go ahead and say coal that is in our inventory. We can send that into this machine, and that should hopefully fill the inventory with coal, just like you see in there. Now, just like you see here, I have my exporter set up and ready to go. And I'll just take some of these logs to set the filter. And let's see, make sure I actually grab them. There we go. And then we'll put this to auto export. And that should now start to fill this with logs, because in my AE system over there, I have made sure to provide it with some logs from a refined storage system. Now, right here's an example where I may not want to use a importer for this particular application. I actually might want to just send it via a pipe directly to a machine to be turned into planks. I don't know how much wood pulp is going to be used later on. Looks like we have not that many recipes here for Gregtech related stuff. It can be used later on for this. So maybe later on we can change the recipes, or not change the recipes, but change our layout so that way we're like requesting these items with higher tier machines, because these are still just our lower tier, and we're just trying to work our way to at least the next tier machine. These machines are pretty dumb. They don't even have exporting options. It's just sort of you send it in and you got to figure out a way to pull it out. So this actually might be the perfect example to show off the universal pipes again from the pipes mod, and you can use mechanism, I think. All of these things should work, but this should be able to send the items from here as we're pulling it out from the side and send it into this machine. And now we just got to give this some steam, and then we're going to start to see something interesting as we start to add more machines to our measly one tiny little machine. Notice the steam is going down. We are now running 2 machines off of here, and the steam usage is going to start to go up, and we may not have enough steam, and this is where we might reach a critical failure point here, where this is not producing enough, and these are going to start to burn out. Ooh, we're just barely producing enough, it looks like. But once we have more machines, well, that's going to change, I think. Oof, it does seem like it is staying pretty consistent, though, and is now going back up. By the way, remember earlier, we can actually pause the machines with this soft mallet, by the way. Look at that. We have the ability to turn them on and off. That is so cool. You know, I've never really played with this mod, but the more I look at it, the more it's actually not that bad of like a mod. I expected it to be like this kind of just grindy for grindy's sake, but there's actually some really cool machine mechanics. Now, while that's all processing, let's talk about the next part, and that is going to require us to make raw rubber pulp, which comes from sticky resin. And it says a slime farm, which we already technically have because you can produce this from slime balls. We just need to set up a recipe that makes that sticky resin. So if we take slime balls and we take a look at what they can be turned into by smelting, we'll see that this gets produced. And we have a very, very fast smelter. So I'm just going to utilize the things that we already have to make this go a lot smoother. So I'll just simply add it to my list right here, grab one out, and make sure I put it in here to be constantly requested and sent into the storage here. So after a little bit of AE magic, I now have the sticky resin going in here and turning into the raw rubber pulp. And now we need to make some more machines. So we actually need to start producing the alloyer. So one of these in here, there it is, the low pressure alloyer. I can get that crafted up real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and place it right here because we're going to be sending this raw rubber pulp directly into this machine, but we're also going to need something else that's new, and that is sulfur. To be able to make the rubber itself, we also need some sulfur dust, and thankfully we also have a mystical agriculture essence set up for that. So now with sulfur being exported into here, and then this being converted just like that, we should now have this set up, and we are now producing rubber, which is going to be a key component that we are going to need quite a bit of, I do believe. So there we go. We have our first raw rubber ingot. I think we might actually need some of this in our inventory. There we go, to be able to complete some of the quests. And there we go. Look at that. Fantastic. I'll actually take some of that as well. Now, wow, it actually looks like the alloy smelter is used for quite a bit. So it looks like we need to make these case molds for making the rubber sheets. So it's going to take 2 rubber ingots, and that can be made with this. It looks like some steel and some tools. We can make these empty molds and then turn those into different types of molding. And then that just takes up a slot in our alloy smelter and produces plates. Interesting. So now I should be able to place my mold in here, and then I'm just going to use the pipes to just send this right on through. And there we go. So now we're sending that over here, and that is producing those rubber sheets. Okay, so are we still good on steam? Because it does look like at this point we are now no longer producing. It doesn't show a visible amount of steam in here, and this is actually going really fast. So this is using 3 EU worth. Some of these use 1, some of these use 3. Okay, interesting. I wonder if we have enough here. All right, so move on to the next section now that we have this running, and that is to produce glass tubes. It does appear like we have everything else in this chapter. So there we go. We'll put those in here. And what else do we need to make? So glass tubes require glass. So we need ourselves some dust, which comes from a macerator. We take glass and we macerate it, which I have going on right here. So glass going to this, producing glass dust into a low pressure macerator. There's a lot going on here. And then that needs to go into another alloy smelter with a ball mold, which is made just the same way as we just did. And then that should produce a glass tube. So yet again, another alloyer. And we just send this over here, and then I need to make the glass mold. So there's the glass mold, ready to go. This goes in here, and then we get this hooked into our pressure system, which, like I said, I still don't know if that's enough on that one boiler. Still kind of crazy. It's supplying all of these machines. But then I just need to send that glass over here, and there we go. We now should have that. Oh, here we go. So notice right here. I think this is now saying that we do not have enough steam in order to supply this. So this is where we would need more of these boilers at this point. And then we can go ahead and turn this off with that mallet that I had showed before. And if we shut that off, then we shouldn't end up with that like craziness that is going on with its inventory slot. So now with 2 more boilers, I think we can have up to 6 of these boilers, just doing the math. These pipes can only hold 40 millibuckets a tick, and if these produce 6, then 7 would produce over 40 and 6 would produce right under 40 of these boilers. So technically 6 of these would be like the exact amount to have these pipes fully functional. But yeah, this should now be able to run now that I've gotten these up and running. Well, at least once their like internal temperature increases up to where it starts producing steam. Okay, so I've ran into one of my first problems, and that is this has actually like slowed down in production, and this allowed sulfur to build up in here. So using an exporter may not be the best solution to this problem here, especially for things that have more than one inputs in this case. And a way of solving this is to actually say, hey, only keep, for example, 1 sulfur in stock. And to do that with applied energistics, there's a couple of ways we can do it, but I think one of the best ways is by using a item or IMI interface. Now this looks like a normal block, but I've turned it into an interface item. And what this lets me do is it lets me say, hey, only keep a certain amount in stock. And we can actually change, I believe, oh, sorry, up here, we can actually configure the amount to keep in stock. So for example, I can say always keep 16 in this machine, and it should always keep 16 in here. Well, that is if this wants to play, because for some reason this is sending more items. But there we go. So the sulfur should always stay in stock. And what it should do is it should see that there's only this amount. That's kind of what I want to test here too. Pulling this out, will it send any more? So notice it's now not filling up that slot, which is exactly what I want it to not do, is start to fill that slot. So by putting an amount in here, it should not do that. It should go down to 16 and should only stay at a 16 fill level. And this is where Applied Energistics can be a little bit more complicated sometimes than refined storage, because you would just use a regular regulator card on your exporter, and so needing to use this is a little bit more complicated. Now the cool part about this ME interface is later on we can actually use this as an insert, and we can also use it to output to, because this is basically 2-in-1 and takes up only one side of a machine. And yes, Gregtech, believe it or not, will actually let you export from the same place it is being inserted from. Just not these super simple machines. So looky there, now we have our first glass tube, and we are on our way to making these circuit boards, because I think the rest of this just requires us to have some of these things. For example, charcoal dust. That's actually something that we can make in a crafting grid. And all of these individual components, we can make resin, we have paper. All of this can be made. We need to make copper wires. That is just simply cutting things together. And I even believe these resin printed circuit boards are done inside of a crafting grid. Look at this. This is pretty straightforward. And it's just a matter of having these items in stock and ready to go. So it's just a matter of getting my import buses on here, and that should start importing these into our Applied Energistics system. And for example, the glass that is now getting put in. Also, these wood planks are getting put in with an importer. This is the cool thing too about Applied Energistics. We can actually have importers and exporters in the same block space, and we can have them in all directions, which is really nice. And there we go. This should be the entirety of the first chapter technically done. The rest of it is just us basically crafting. So now we should be able to make vacuum tubes, and there's our vacuum tube. Very interesting looking vacuum tube. And then we have a resistor, and I think in the quest it does say on the resistor, thankfully we don't have to make different kinds of resistors. It says, don't worry, you don't need to craft resistors with different resistances. That's probably a good idea. Good thing. But yes, we should be able to craft these. We do need to set up a recipe for crafting charcoal dust. So I do have charcoal in here. This will be utilizing that iron mortar. And so there we go. That's pretty straightforward. And then I guess I can use wires. Since I'm already producing copper wires, might as well not worry about making the crafting recipe for the fine copper wire. Everything else we should have. And so that is ready to go. I have paper automatically being sent to this. So resistors are done. Then we have our boards. I think it's best to use this recipe right here to make 3 of those. I think it uses the same amount regardless, but it just makes more. And then we can go ahead and craft this. There we go. That makes our breadboard basically. And then the final thing is the basic electronic circuit, which gets us out of this basic mode and utilizes all of those components, plus this, which is red wire. This is going to be something that is actually new, that I haven't seen yet. So red alloy cable. And I'm wondering, is this going to be like some sort of expensive thing that we don't have access to? Red alloy ingots. Where does this come from? Is it a nugget smelt thing like we smelt redstone? No, it's probably going to require me to go through some process that it didn't mention. Aha. Yes, it does. So we are going to need some redstone, and it looks like copper. So redstone and copper produces this redstone alloy in another alloy smelter. So to get this up and running, I'll just simply send it to an interface right here. And that should hopefully send both things in. At least it should try to send. It doesn't really seem like it is. Do I have to put the items in first? Oh, weird. Maybe I will need an exporter specifically for this. Is this? Oh, wow. I guess I was all wrong about those interfaces. Okay, so interesting. So what I might have to do is, for example, for this, because for some reason the ME interface isn't actually sending the items into here, which I did expect them to actually do. Instead, what we're going to do is we'll use our export bus, but I think what I'll do here is instead of sending this, I'm just going to import this into the system. And then I'll just use this export bus down here to round robin, because you can set these to round robin mode. And so just like this, that should be able to now round robin. I've just got to get this set up with an importer, and then we should be ready to rock and roll. So that'll put it into the system. So a regular old importer should work. And then we just need to tell this to take, for example, the raw pulp and the sulfur, and we need to get those to be in round robin mode over here. So I'm actually going to take this out of here for now. And then we'll set this to export round robin mode. And then we'll make sure to put sulfur and put that in there. And then that should start to equally distribute those two things. Perfect. Now, something interesting I just noticed is I can actually go through all of these individual machines and I can mute them. By just clicking the hammer on them, this mutes all of the machines, making it so much quieter here. Even though I do like the immersive noises, if you don't like them, you can just shut them all off. Now it's incredibly quiet. So if you're doing a little bit more testing, I did go ahead and add up to, I think we have now what, we have seven of these solid boilers now running, because this actually costs a bit more to run. And so I was needing that. And then I also discovered that our system of round robining is still not exactly the thing that I want. It's not like refined storage where you can actually have a limiter that would limit how much it actually keeps in stock on here. And I didn't really see anything like that that is a part of AE, aside from doing some crazy janky subnet stuff, which is very, very weird. But I think later on, once we get this extractor up and running, and we get a better version of this extractor in the next tier, then this will go significantly faster and will allow us to sort of bypass this whole thing. I don't think that will be a problem anymore. So with that out of the way, we should now have ourselves some rubber sheets and the ability for us to make some red alloy wire. And I think that is the last little bit that we need. And this will allow us to get these red alloy cables, which will be used for this electronic circuit. That is a lot of things that we just crafted for this one item. So now for the real question, can we make all of these individual components for the quest? So let's go ahead and do this. We need a vacuum tube, and that should be quite easy to craft. Let's craft that. There we go. Vacuum tube for the quest. Then we need a resistor. Okay, resistor coming right up. That is not what I need. We need a resistor. Where's this goofy looking resistor? Okay, right here. Bam. Ready to go. Resistor. Done. And I should be able to pull the resistor in my inventory to complete the quest. There we go. And then we just need the circuit board, which we should be able to request. There we go. And last but not least, making it into a printed circuit board, which we should be able to send in and make a printed circuit board. Just like that. Perfect. And last but not least, making the 32 basic circuits. This one's going to require 32 of them, and I don't know if we have the ability to make 32 just yet, but I can go ahead and request, and it's calculating the process because apparently this is huge, and we are missing the red alloy, and that's the thing that's missing in this quest here. It didn't even mention anything about red alloy until right now. So nice. I also kind of did a little bit more work to try and figure out a way to make these more scalable, and I think this actually works to make this more scalable. So I just moved the pipes back one, and then I now have these feeding, and this allowed me to add, for example, another extractor right here to kind of keep the bottleneck from happening here. And yeah, this is actually working. So 2 extractors running on the sticky resin, and I'm able to kind of stack them like this, making this a bit more modular. And as you can see, that's kind of one of the reasons why this is a bit taller in here. So after getting all this set up, and by the time I had all these pipes moved around, I think I now have everything I need to make the 32 that it wants me to do for the quest. And it mentions doing 32 as an example of batch sort of processing or batch crafting and having these all ready to go. So as soon as I hit this button, you're going to see everything required for these recipes. It's a lot. Also, we could make the plates a little bit more effectively if we went ahead and made the plates without using the hammers. But for right now, I'm going to go with this. And when I hit start, the crafting madness is going to happen. And we see how fast this is actually crafting all of these things. Oh boy, that is a lot going on right there. But it is all crafting slowly but surely all of these circuits. And just to think, this is only the steam age. This is like the first process. It is just mind-boggling watching all of this just sort of come together. It's like pulling in the tools, and we can start to see like it's using those wire cutters and everything. Slowly but surely they're making all the copper. I think the copper is the big bottleneck in the craft here. But yeah, we've already at 10. There's 12, 13. It's now going up. And we're about to have our 32 to technically complete this milestone quest here. And we got the notification from Applied Energistics that our craft is done. And we can now pull these out. And chapter Steam Age complete. Yes, I just want to high five you guys. I know I can't do it through the screen, unfortunately. But there we go. We now have all of these things. We get ourselves some tin cables. We also get 8 more electronic circuits. And we get these LV machine holes. This just needs imagination to use this. Interesting. And so with that, I think I am done for today. This has been quite a lot getting done. And well, I actually kind of enjoyed it. I thought I wouldn't, but it was actually kind of fun, especially playing around with all of the Steam stuff and not super having to worry about all of my stuff going boom. That's the one things that I just don't like about mods sometimes, is when you build out everything and then they just explode on you. Yeah, that doesn't sound fun. But between the building today and also getting this whole Steam section set up and it actually looking kind of clean, I am pretty satisfied. And I hope you guys enjoyed as well. If you did, comment down below. What was your favorite part? And if I did anything wrong, let me know down in the comments below. And if there's a way that I can improve, I would love to hear from you guys. And not to mention that, be sure to click that subscribe button and also give this video, like I said, a huge thumbs up. And well, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to RPS. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord and becoming a Discord premium member and getting access to those beautiful supporter servers and also world downloads. So be sure to check that out if you haven't checked out the Discord, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect, and join the amazing community today. Also, guys, thank you all for watching, and hopefully you're enjoying this Gregtech. Best way to let me know is, like I said, by clicking that like button. I'll see you in the next one, and as always, thanks for watching. Bye!